Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Adrielle, and I am currently narrating a story of my life dating back from January 2016. In the previous episode, I wrapped up the season 2 of An Unlikely Story, Atlanta, and I talked about how I found out that Brandon, found out how Brandon possibly could have had a child with his ex girlfriend, but God is telling me no. And I'm having inclinations that his brother is the father. And I find out that I'm in the wilderness season. So, in the beginning of season 3 of An Unlikely Story, I am going to talk about the wilderness. And that really is the title of this season, the wilderness season. So, here it goes. As I'm in my closet having devotion, I'm just thinking to myself, like, it all makes sense. Me being in the wilderness season makes sense. And it also explained to me why I was feeling funny basically that entire 2019. God was calling me deeper into Him. I was like, okay, it makes sense. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm in the wilderness season. I've been in the wilderness season before, back in 2016. I know how this goes. But why? Why am I in the wilderness season? Now, the first thing that came into my mind was God was preparing me for marriage. That was the only thing that came into my mind. I'm in the wilderness season because God is preparing me for marriage. But here's the thing with that: people get married on a regular basis. So why would God have to prepare me for marriage? Like, everybody gets married every day. So, like, what's the big deal? So I'm like, okay, I don't know why. But the first thought that came into my mind was that God was preparing me for marriage. And yeah, so I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm in the wilderness season. That explains why I didn't have a job. I don't think this wilderness season is going to last long because I need to pay my bills. I need to do things. So, yeah, probably 3 to 4 months by September. By September 2019, I should be employed. So, yeah, I was like, okay, Lord, I am down with what you have for me. You're calling me to this wilderness season. I'm down for it. Cool. Now, as far as branding goes, I tell myself that I don't want to check on him anymore. I don't want to check on him. What I was seeing on the Shade Room, the whole Caitlyn situation, the child Lily Nami, it was really bothering me. I don't want to be consumed with that. So I decided that I was going to take a break off of social media for 1 week and also a break from music as well. I was going to take a break. I don't want to be consumed by any of that. And after this break, I am no longer checking on Brandon again. I am tired. I'm just exhausted. And I tell myself, I receive that he's my husband. I believe he's my husband. I have faith that he's my husband. But as of right now, I am single. I cannot be focused on somebody who doesn't even know me. Cause that was the thing. I'm like, yo, Brandon doesn't even know me. So why should I be focused on him? I thought about him every day since I knew about him June 2018. I don't need to focus on someone who's not focused on me. And plus, I'm single. Like, I'm single. So I tell myself, I am no longer checking on Brandon. I am single and I'm going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on this wilderness season and how eventually I'm going to get a job. And that's that. So the fast ended, I think, probably June 30th. Yeah. Like, I think I ended the fast June 30th. And I said, yeah, I'm no longer checking on Brandon. I think I also deactivated the the burner account. I think I deactivated the burner account because at this point I was no longer following Brandon on my personal page. I was only following him on the burner page. So I think I deactivated that page. um, I just wanted to stay far away from anything related to Brandon. I just wanted to focus on myself. I didn't want to think about him or any of that. So, yeah, that was what happened at the end of June. So, I do want to give a recap about some other stuff that I probably didn't cover. Another thing I want to add for the month of June was that I was aware that I was in the wilderness, but here's the thing, I did not tell anybody about the wilderness. And honestly, I really did not know the process God was going to take me through when it came to the wilderness. Like, I really didn't know. All I knew was I was in the wilderness, and my marriage, my future marriage to Brandon had something to do with it. That's all I knew. I didn't know the ins and out, how long or whatever. But I was still looking for a job. So at this time, I remember Ruth and I would hang out a lot, and I'll tell her like, "Yo, I'm looking for a job. Like, I need a job." And she told me at the time that she has an aunt who has a friend that's a recruiter at the Big Four, and that I should send my resume to her so she can send it to her aunt, and her aunt can send it to the recruiter. I'm like, okay, bet. I'm gonna send it to you. So I sent it to her, and was it like a week after, a couple days after? I don't know, but eventually, probably a week after, whatever, we were talking, and I asked her about the resume, like, hey, were you able to give it to your aunt, whatever? And she tells me that her aunt and the recruiter said that my resume was bad. I was like, wait, what? She said, yeah, they said your resume was bad. And I was like, well, did they say what was bad about it? And then she says that, well, they were talking about your email address. I said, that's my name. She said, yeah, that they were talking about your email address, that you shouldn't use this email address. Now, yeah, I was confused. Like, what in the world? First of all, I've never heard anybody refer to somebody's resume as bad. Never. Never, ever, ever. Mind you, this is the same resume I applied to the Alpharetta job. And this was the same resume that was reviewed at Georgia State Career Services. So I'm just so confused. I've never heard anybody refer to someone's resume as bad. Now, I've heard people say you need to change this and tweak that. But to say somebody's resume is bad, I've never heard it. So when they're just nitpicking my email address, to me, it's like I'm so confused. So I'm asking Ruth, I like what's bad about it? Like I don't, she's like, I don't know. They just said it was bad. Like, hey, let me send you my resume so you can copy the format. And I was just like, okay, and so we end our conversation. After we end our conversation, I remember saying to myself, why do I have the feeling that Ruth's aunt doesn't like me? Like, I remember just feeling that in my spirit that she doesn't like me. Now, mind you, I did not know the woman. I didn't know her. But I remember just feeling in my spirit, she doesn't like me. So, I'm going to change this resume. I'm going to change it. And I'm also going to look online for resume templates to also use that as well, because I don't know. Like, she couldn't give me a concrete answer as to how my resume was bad. So, and y'all, I want y'all to remember this because it plays a role in the story. So yeah, that was what happened also in the month of June. At this point, when it came to like music, um, I started listening to Christian R&B, a little bit of Christian hip hop at this point, and I was loving it. I was really loving it. I really didn't have the desire to go back to secular music, but the Christian R&B and the Christian hip hop was really keeping me occupied. Also, I remember there were times where I would tell God that when it came to secular music, Lord, what do you want me to do? Because I feel like I never got a concrete answer from the Lord. And so there would be times where I say, God, I want you to control me. Like, control me. Because if you control me, I don't have to worry about sinning against you. you know? And I kind of want to get a response from God either. So I'm like, oh my goodness, Lord, do you want me to listen to secular music or not? Because I'm kind of afraid at this point. I had so much fear in me with the whole secular music that crossed over into my faith. Me being afraid of the whole secular music stuff brought me into legalism. I became very legalistic. I started telling my friends that, if you do this, if you do that, you know, hell and stuff like that. I remember I would go on Instagram looking at people's pages and thinking to myself, oh my goodness, this person's a heathen. I was becoming very legalistic, and it was just so weird. It was just a weird space that I was in my life at that time. And being called into the wilderness season, it made sense, but also too it was weird because I felt like, why should I go through a wilderness season because of marriage? Um, it was just a lot going on. And also the thought of, how long am I going to be in this wilderness season? Because I gotta pay bills. My parents took it upon themselves to pay for my rent because I didn't have a job. And it's like, okay, they can't do that for a very long time. So how long is this wilderness season going to be like? And just the thought of my future husband possibly fathering a child and not claiming the child, I was under a lot of stress. I was under a lot of stress. There was a lot. But we're gonna get more into it in this season. This is a very, 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 very long season. Yeah, it's a very long season. So I'm gonna try to knock out these episodes as fast as I can. And yeah, so thank you very much for tuning into the very first episode of season 3 of An Unlikely Story. If you like it, like, if you are not subscribed, subscribe. If you're not following me on social media, do that as well. And until next time.